This is my unrated cut of review of the Son of the Mask. Unrated cut. As in the extended cut, as in the longer movie. So there's only one thing that shows that wasn't in the theatrical cut, is that this army of cartoon sperms go into this egg and the sperms are green and they have cartoon face on them. That's the only thing that's different. That's how they show the kids how pregnant you see, or how that's how they show the kids how a woman gets pregnant. Very educational, kids. I highly recommend you watch this film. Don't worry, it's a very good movie besides being educational. It's actually very funny. So, I like this, I'm going to explain that. I'm going to tell you the things I liked. So, this guy called Loki is looking for this ancient mask that Jim Carrey wore in the first one, called The Mask, from came out in 1994. So, in 2005, instead of ending up in the river, instead of being in the river, it's in museum. So the museum is also not in one museum but several museums, but in several locations. Most of the locations are fake. Turns out the real one is in the backyard of our main protagonist, and his dog dig it up, literally, because he's a dog. So Loki's father wants him to be exactly like Thor because he's embarrassed of Loki being his son, because he's a douche. Odin. Now this ain't Loki and Odin and Thor from the Marvel trilogy. I mean the Marvel Thor trilogy plus also better known as the Marvel MCU, or at least this has anything to do with those Marvel versions of the characters. This is their own version of the characters that take place in a separate continuity, just to avoid the confusion. So Loki's on the hunt to mask to prove to make his father proud and prove that he is worthy being a son. Well, I mean, protagonist has writer's block and having trouble coming up with a pitch for a cartoon. After he has a boss, I finally asked this guy who works up on the much higher class than him, so I guess paid more bigger bucks. So he comes up with the idea. At least he's coming with ideas, and it's not coming with idea, then the idea he comes up with isn't the idea that gets accepted by this guy, because the idea that the guy thinks his idea that puts him on a cartoon project is literally a version of a main protagonist wearing the magical mask. So, and also he's now, and because he boned and had sex with his wife is now pregnant, and his child has a lot more in common with the mask half than the actual human half. Because the mask, when he puts on the mask, it literally turns him into a cartoon character, literally. And so now in the biggest one, he becomes a cartoon character, and the mother spirit is cartoon features for unusual cravings, like craving bars of soap, craving liquid soap, and burping out bubbles. It's really weird. But it's also very funny, all of this. Also, the father didn't really want to have a kid, but when he realized that he's a dad, he just lives in denial, and that he's glad to be a dad, even though he's scared shitless, because he's having nightmares on several babies, not just several babies, but babies with fangs, like vampires or like snakes, more like snake fangs than vampire fangs. It's actually pretty funny, and you can see how much stress the guy man might be under, because it's just so funny actually, and you see how this is how stressed out he is about being a dad. So our main protagonist, dog, after the baby's born, the dog knows that something's off with the kid, and plus he's jealous of the kid because he's now the center of attention. The dog isn't. So the dog and the baby tried to commit murder to one another several times throughout the 3-act structure of the film, with cartoonish Saturday morning violence. With cartoon Saturday morning violence. You know, stuff you expect from the Looney Tunes. And the baby pretty much outsmarts the dog every single time. Neither one of them die. The dog ends up becoming the baby ends up getting on the dog's soft side after our main character explains that explains the whole thing, that the baby's in trouble, and when he's older he's going to be like his big brother. So he gives the mask to our main protagonist so he can save the baby from Loki. See, he made a bargain. Loki made a negotiation after he got his powers back from Odin's. After Odin's actually interfered from him being very, 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 very close to getting the baby that was born inside the mask. And getting the mask. But he didn't want the baby, he just wanted the stupid mask. So Odin, being the dumbass father he is, and the dumbass person, God, he is, he interferes and takes away Loki's powers and gives them back to him after Loki explains the whole misunderstanding and how he explains how close he was. He gets his powers back, and he's on the, there's a timer limit, like I don't know how many minutes, I forget how many minutes it was he has time for. So Loki makes a negotiation with the father after Loki messes with his head pretending to be his wife. So that way when the wife comes home, he beats the shit out of his wife thinking it's Loki, then realizes it's not Loki, it's actually his wife. And I like this also there's a part of the film I skipped. The baby's motivation was to get rid of the dad because he's a neglectful parent. And so his plan was to have the father get locked in a mental institution by exposing the baby, showing his what his cartoon logic he's capable of, like turning to Woody the Woodpecker, or peeing on his dad, or running up and down running around the wall, or banging on the walls, or cracking his neck all the way around his head and then throwing up like he was possessed by demon, and then to his father actually convinced that his son is possessed, that his son is literally a possessed demon, because he says that he's going to take him to an exorcist, then an MRI to see an exorcist. But the baby suddenly has a change of heart when he sees that his dad is willing to put on his life on line to save his son. So so the baby saves the dad by shielding him with his cartoon logic, and Loki, gets his powers take away and then give him back. That's cut up. So the Loki once the main protagonist gets his powers back, and because he puts the mask on one more time, he gets into a race with Loki, a street race with Loki, because Loki doesn't want to give back the kid, because he's grown attached, so he wants the kid, the baby, and the mask, because he bonded with the kid. So then they get in a physical fight, and then they just decide to leave it up to the kid who wants to choose if the kid wants to go with his dad or Loki. So he starts choosing Loki. Then the dad takes off the mask and takes off the mask and gives up his powers by taking off the mask, and the kid says his first word, "Dad, Dad," and he goes to his dad, and so he chooses his dad. So Loki's not having it, so he tries to just kill all three of them and steal the mask for himself, because Loki's heartbroken that the kid chooses his dad over him. Yeah, Loki's heartbroken over this. So Loki tries to commit murder, and takes this giant hammer and slams and tries to commit murder to all three of them. The father, who is our main protagonist, catches it and lifting it up with his bare hands like a giant barbell, and without any powers, without the mask, because so the reason why that's able to work is I told you I watched the commentary. I understand what the metaphor was, is that he actually is lifting the giant hand that Loki Loki tried to kill all three of them with, and it's literally a giant hammer. I'm not kidding. He was able to lift the hammer through the power of love and being a dad. Through the power of loving his kid. So Odin interferes because Loki's out of time, doesn't have the mask. Loki, once his father comes, he says he's banished for life from home. And so, from Asgard, Loki begs not to do that, and not to do that, and they'll get into a little disagreement, and the main protagonist ends the disagreement by using common sense. No matter what you do, Loki's your son, and you're his dad, Odin. So even you might have, whatever problems you have now, you might as well get over it now, because chances are you're going to live a lot longer than all of us, like 1,000 years longer than all of us. So, I mean, he says. So they make peace with each other, Loki and Odin, and main character offers the mask to them, offers the mask to Loki and Odin, and tells them to just take it. Take it, he said, and Odin takes it and is proud of Loki. And I like how Loki asked his father, Odin, can I start driving tag? And Odin says, don't push it. So it was pretty fun. That was like last night. And so he makes a different cartoon, not one about himself, him as a mask, but the one about the baby and the relationship between the baby and the dog butting heads against each other and bonding. So, and they all live happily ever after. Watching the cartoon that the main character made. And the show's a hit, and the baby and the dog and his wife and protagonist is enjoying the program. I personally like the sequel, Son of the Mask, more than the first one. That felt good, the extended version and the theatrical version. So, I'm giving the Son of the Mask a 10 out of 10. While looking back, I think the first one just deserves a 5 out of 10 looking back. If I didn't give it a 5 out of 10, I really wish I did have. But, you know, I still recommend both films. I recommend the second one a lot more. Because it made me laugh a lot more, it made me cheer a lot more, it wowed me more, and made me really emotional at the end when the baby's first word was Dad there. And it gets kept on and it's it gets kept on punching you in the gut when it got to the emotions. The real emotional stuff it just hold no punches. I love how the hold no punches when it really got to the emotional stuff, and the hold no punches when it got to the really hilarious comic stuff and the weird stuff. So yeah, that's why I'm giving this film a 10 out of 10.